And these NFTs sold at auction price and were worth whatever value they ended up being.
And you know, fans of Khabib presumably bought them. The internet absolutely erupted into a frenzy when a post on X, formerly Twitter, alleged that the one and only Khabib Nurmagomedov was the mastermind behind an NFT scam worth millions of dollars. But guess who just called him out in the most brutal way imaginable? None other than Dana White, in a move that absolutely nobody saw coming. Dana allegedly exposed everything behind this growing scandal, and trust me when I say this, the details are absolutely shocking. So let's break down exactly what happened.
It starts with Khabib doing a promotional thing on his Twitter that we talked about a couple of days ago, where what is it? An emoji,
An NFT.
an NFT on Telegram.
Yeah.
That is the Khabib's Papakha.
This is the accusation that completely rocked the entire MMA world. You know, there are certain moments in the world of mixed martial arts that go way beyond the octagon itself. These are the moments that serve as a stark reminder that the greatest, most intense rivalries don't just magically end when a referee raises someone's hand in victory. And what I am about to share with you today is precisely one of those moments. A spectacular collision of massive egos, explosive accusations, and the wild world of digital currency that has reignited one of the most bitter feuds in the entire history of the UFC. We are, of course, talking about Khabib Nurmagomedov and Conor McGregor, two names that have become completely synonymous with raw intensity, with unbridled passion, and with an animosity so profound that it seems to seep into every single interaction they have, whether that's inside the cage, as we're about to discover, in the incredibly volatile world of cryptocurrency and NFTs. Now, before we dive headfirst into the absolute chaos that has unfolded over the past few days, let me paint you a clear picture of what exactly went down, because this isn't just two fighters trading insults on social media again. Oh no, this is about serious accusations of fraud, shocking claims of cultural exploitation, and literally millions of dollars changing hands in what some are calling a calculated, predatory scheme designed to exploit loyal, unsuspecting fans. It all kicked off in late November of 2025 when Khabib Nurmagomedov announced something that on the surface seemed relatively harmless. He was launching a digital collectible, an NFT, in partnership with the messaging app Telegram and its founder, Pavel Durov. The product in question, a digital version of the Papakha, that iconic, traditional Dagestani sheepskin hat that has become an absolute symbol, so closely associated with Khabib and his late father, Abdulmanap, that it practically screams the Nurmagomedov legacy. The one and only Ariel Helwani and his team discussed exactly how this whole crazy situation started to unfold on their show.
But I've seen the USD equivalent of all of them sold together was 4.3 million.
Now, here it is, and so you buy it. And this is precisely where things get absolutely fascinating, because these weren't just some run-of-the-mill digital collectibles. According to the initial reports, a staggering 29,000 of these digital Papakhas were launched on the Ton blockchain, which is integrated directly with Telegram, and they sold out almost instantaneously. I mean, they were gone in a flash. The price for each one was set at $150, and the total haul from this sale landed somewhere between an incredible $4.35 million to $4.5 million. And get this, that was all in just 24 hours. That's a mind-boggling 30 million rubles flowing into this project in the blink of an eye. When the MMA Hour crew decided to look into the exact figures, they were just as stunned as everyone else by what they discovered. Do you know how much they were? I don't know.
Okay, now it pops off. Someone writes to Conor McGregor about this. Bro is legit a full-time scam artist.
By the way, I don't think he wrote to Conor. Conor's just responding to this.
Okay. Conor McGregor writes, what a shame and a stain on his father's name. Just wow. To scam fans using his father and his country's culture is just so low.
Now, you might be sitting there thinking to yourself, okay, so Khabib sold some digital hats. What's the big deal? After all, athletes and celebrities have been jumping into the NFT space years now, and you'd be absolutely right to think that. But my friends, this is where the controversy erupts like a full-blown volcano, spewing hot takes and furious accusations all across social media platforms. And who should enter the scene but Conor McGregor, the man who has never, and I mean never, missed an opportunity to take a vicious shot at his former rival. When the news of this massive NFT sale broke, McGregor didn't just criticize it. He didn't simply express some mild disappointment. No, that is not his style. Conor McGregor came out swinging with accusations that Khabib had committed nothing short of outright fraud, that he had weaponized his personal and cultural heritage for his own cynical financial gain, and that he had completely betrayed the very fans who had supported him throughout his legendary, undefeated career. The response on social media was, as you can imagine, immediate and absolutely explosive. Someone tagged McGregor in a post calling Khabib a full-time scam artist, and the Irishman wasted absolutely no time jumping right into the fray with his own scathing assessment of the situation.
There's just no way good guy Khabib used his late father's name as well as Dagestan's culture to scam his fans and fire sell a bunch of digital NFTs online and then delete all the content after they were sold, leaving his fans robbed of their money. There's just no way good guy.
And let me tell you, McGregor's words were absolutely scathing. He flat out accused Khabib of using his late father's name to scam his own fans and fire sell a bunch of digital NFTs online, and then, to make it even worse, deleting all the content after they were sold, effectively leaving his fans robbed of their hard-earned money. He viciously called it a father scam, a cruel and calculated twist on the famous phrase, father's plan, which Khabib has invoked so many times throughout his career, turning it into something dark, something truly sinister. McGregor then elaborated even further, expressing his utter disbelief that the supposed good guy of MMA would ever stoop to such a low level.
Now, why would it be viewed as a scam? I don't know if it's necessarily a scam. I think the criticism may be like, oh, you're sort of monetizing this cultural symbolism, but I don't know if anyone thinks it's a scam per se. The deleting of the previous tweets is interesting, but I guess they'll frame it as like, okay, there's no need
to do this. But what exactly is Conor's evidence for these incredibly serious allegations? Well, at the very heart of his argument is something that, on its surface, does appear to be somewhat suspicious. After the NFT sale was officially concluded, Khabib reportedly deleted the promotional post that was advertising the auction. The teasers, the announcements, all of the hype-building content, all of it seemingly vanished without a trace from his social media accounts. And for McGregor and his legion of supporters, this deletion is the smoking gun. It's the proof. Because you have to ask yourself, why would you delete promotional content unless you were actively trying to hide something, unless you were attempting to distance yourself from a project you knew was problematic, unless, as McGregor strongly suggests, you were running a scam and wanted to destroy the evidence. But here's the thing, and this is where the story gets significantly more complicated than just simple black and white accusations. The blockchain records on the TN network clearly show that the NFTs were in fact delivered as promised. There was no classic rug pull, no situation where the creators just absconded with the funds without fulfilling their obligations. The people who paid $1,100 for a digital Papakha received exactly that, a digital Papakha. So the real question becomes whether calling this a scam is even accurate in the first place. The MMA Hour panel wrestled with this very distinction, debating whether what happened constitutes actual fraud or if it's simply a matter of incredibly poor taste.
Khabib Nurmagomedov obliterated Conor McGregor, made him tap, made him quit like a little bitch. He was the original Tom Aspinall, okay? Let me stop. Because he tapped out. He got obliterated, he got embarrassed, he got humiliated, and he had his career ended that night in 2018.
To keep it up there. Now, does that mean that everything about this situation is completely above board? Not necessarily. Fan testimonials on platforms like Reddit reveal a ton of frustration over significant value drops post-purchase, with resale markets showing dramatically diminished worth due to the inherent volatility of the market. This is what crypto experts often call a hype-driven dump. A scenario where initial excitement inflates prices to the moon, only for them to come crashing back down to earth once the buzz inevitably dies down. And this brings us to a crucial question that we absolutely need to wrestle with. Is there a fundamental difference between an outright scam and just a very risky business venture? Is Khabib guilty of actually defrauding his fans, or is he simply guilty of attaching his celebrated name to a highly volatile product that, like so many NFTs before it, failed to maintain its value? These are the difficult questions that have the entire MMA community absolutely divided. And to truly understand why this particular controversy has exploded with such incredible ferocity, we need to take a step back and examine the deep-rooted history between these two warriors, a history that stretches back years before any NFT ever even existed.
Conor is salty that Khabib essentially ended his career in 2018 and humiliated him in front of all the fans at UFC 229. And that's really where all this bitterness and pettiness comes from for Conor McGregor, because his life has been in a downward spiral since then, and he blames it all on Khabib.
Let's dive into the history of bad blood. You see, this whole saga isn't just about NFTs or cryptocurrency or digital collectibles. It's really about years of accumulated animosity, deeply personal attacks that crossed every line, and a grudge match that came to define an entire era of mixed martial arts competition. The bitterness between these two runs so incredibly deep that many people believe Conor has never truly psychologically recovered from what happened between them. One commentator put it bluntly when they were discussing the root cause of all this ongoing hostility.
You absolute liar. You always try to darken my name after you got destroyed that night, but you will never achieve that. Yes, good guys don't do that. This is 100% facts. That's why I started the video with it.
Let me take you all the way back to October 6, 2018. The event was UFC 229, a night that will forever live in infamy in the annals of combat sports history. The build-up to this fight was unlike anything we had ever witnessed in the sport before. Conor McGregor, in his typical over-the-top fashion, had pulled out absolutely all the stops in his attempts to get under Khabib's skin. He viciously attacked Khabib's religion, his family, and his associates. Of course, there was the infamous bus incident, where McGregor hurled a dolly at a vehicle that was carrying Khabib, injuring multiple people in the process and creating one of the most chaotic and shameful scenes in UFC promotional history. And when Fight Night finally arrived, the event completely shattered pay-per-view records with an astonishing 2.4 million buys, making it the highest-selling event in UFC history at the time. The entire world was watching as these two warriors finally settled their differences inside the octagon, and what they witnessed was nothing short of complete and utter domination from start to finish. Khabib submitted McGregor via neck crank in the 4th round, but even that decisive victory wasn't the end of the story. Immediately after the fight, Khabib leaped over the cage to confront McGregor's teammate, Dylan Danis, sparking a massive brawl that resulted in lengthy suspensions and hefty fines for multiple parties involved. Since that fateful night, the rivalry has never truly ended. It has simply evolved and transformed, morphing from a physical confrontation into a constant, bitter war of words waged primarily on social media platforms. McGregor has repeatedly mocked Khabib's retirement and his business ventures, while Khabib has fired back by questioning McGregor's relevance and personal integrity. The wounds from that October night have clearly never healed, and the current NFT controversy is simply the latest manifestation of that unresolved conflict. As one analyst explained, Conor's entire crusade against Khabib stems directly from that one humiliating defeat.
My count is 56 former drug addicts at my rehabilitation center in Dagestan that I treated. Come to Dagestan, act Notorious MMA. They'll take care of you here. Mexico didn't help you as far as I can see, because obviously Conor's still on drugs.
And this is exactly where this NFT controversy fits into the larger narrative of their ongoing war. For McGregor, this isn't just about calling out a potentially problematic business practice. No, this is about continuing the fight by other means. This is about attempting to paint Khabib as a hypocrite, as someone whose humble warrior image is nothing more than a carefully constructed facade designed to deceive his loyal fan base. But Khabib, who has never backed down from any confrontation, whether it's physical or verbal, responded to McGregor's accusations with a powerful counterattack that was as personal as it was pointed. He called McGregor an absolute liar, someone who was desperate to tarnish his reputation after suffering such a devastating loss inside the cage. Khabib's response made it crystal clear that he viewed this entire attack as nothing more than sour grapes from a bitter and defeated rival.
This also isn't his first foray into NFTs. He's done several of these before.
Yes, but do you think that this one is drawing more criticism because of the way it was presented?
that Khabib staunchly defended the NFTs, framing them as exclusive digital gifts with real-time value, meticulously designed to be shared among friends and family as a genuine celebration of Dagestani traditions. He presented the Papakha not as a mere commodity to be bought and sold, but as a powerful emblem of resilience and heritage, qualities that his father embodied throughout his entire life. He argued that turning it into a shareable digital form was simply a modern way to spread that rich culture globally through cutting-edge platforms like Telegram. And then Khabib delivered what many people considered to be the most devastating blow of the entire exchange. Rather than simply defending his business practices, he went straight for McGregor's well-documented personal struggles, pointedly inviting him to seek help at his own facility.
There's a reality that Conor McGregor is raising attention to, that like maybe this is being mishandled, right? The brand of Khabib is being mishandled. But he's calling it a scam when in reality, Khabib is introducing products to the marketplace and they can either be...
Khabib publicly invited McGregor to visit his rehabilitation centers in Dagestan, facilities where he actively helps former drug addicts recover and completely rebuild their lives. The implication was crystal clear and impossible to miss. McGregor's well-publicized struggles with substance use could greatly benefit from such professional support. It was a deeply personal attack, cleverly disguised as a compassionate offer of help, and it cut deep into McGregor's carefully managed public image. Now, this is where we need to have an honest and thorough conversation about hypocrisy, because here's something that many people criticizing Khabib seem to conveniently forget or perhaps deliberately ignore. Conor McGregor himself launched a cryptocurrency project back in 2022 called The Real Token, which raised minimal funds before being abandoned entirely. The blockchain detective Zach XBT pointed this out during the heated exchange, revealing that McGregor's own project saw a similar pattern of promotional hype, followed by post-deletions and a total value collapse. The exact same pattern he's now accusing Khabib of perpetrating against his fans. And this isn't even Khabib's first venture into the world of digital assets. His involvement in cryptocurrency and NFT projects actually stretches back several years and includes multiple partnerships of varying success. Back in 2021, shortly after his retirement, he launched his first official NFT collection, a limited series of digital cards in gold, platinum, and diamond tiers, with a total supply of just 320 NFTs, designed as exclusive memorabilia for his most dedicated fans. In 2022, he collaborated with Legion Farm for a larger NFT drop of approximately 4,000 units that raised around $3.2 million, though that partnership eventually soured due to payment disputes. In 2023, he partnered with GoMining for NFTs, representing shares in Bitcoin mining hardware, a project that prominent crypto investigator CoffeeZilla labeled as potentially problematic due to what he saw as misleading ROI claims. The MMA Hour panel acknowledged this pattern when discussing why the current controversy seems to be generating so much more backlash than his previous ventures.
Like, they may both be right? Khabib may be right to be able to lend his name to endorse this thing and do it. And Conor McGregor may be right to be like, hey, you're mishandling your brand a little bit. Now, you have to obviously consider the messenger when it comes to that. But it's a dicey thing.
And just this year, in 2025, Khabib partnered with the Multibank Group for a multi-billion-dollar venture, aiming to tokenize his global gyms and fighting brand through something called the MBG token. He also endorsed a meme coin called Convict, which was a satirical jab directly at McGregor amidst his ongoing legal troubles, claiming to raise funds for victims of McGregor's alleged assaults while simultaneously trolling his rival. So, when we look at this situation with complete objectivity and fairness, what we're really witnessing is two fighters, both with questionable track records in the cryptocurrency space, pointing fingers at each other across a digital battlefield. It's a classic case of the pot calling the kettle black, except in this particular instance, both the pot and the kettle have been involved in projects that critics and investigators have seriously questioned. But beyond all the accusations and counter-accusations lies a much deeper question about legacy, image, and what happens when the persona we've so carefully built meets the harsh reality of our business decisions. And that's exactly what we need to examine next.
Can anybody find me a single person who bought the Khabib NFT who is claiming they have been scammed? Can anyone show me a single shred of evidence Khabib misrepresenting what he was selling? The answer to both those questions are no.
The verdict and the legacy. The debate over whether Khabib's NFT venture constitutes a legitimate scam or simply a case of aggressive marketing has divided commentators and fans alike, right down the middle. Ariel Helwani and his team discussed this very nuance, acknowledging that both fighters might actually have valid points when viewed from their respective perspectives.
My take is Khabib in particular gets put on a pedestal that people idolize him.
Yep.
And athletes are idolized a lot, but he does get put on a pedestal, especially since I think he left. He left early. He left us wanting more. He was perfect. He was undefeated. He was a champion. His reasons for leaving, as I talked about, felt very honest and sincere, very honorable as well. To want to honor your mother's wishes. Your father passes away tragically. Like, everything about that felt very pure. And now these things don't feel
Purchase or not purchase, right? Let's take a moment to examine the expert opinions a bit more closely, because this entire controversy has attracted significant attention from some of the most prominent voices in both the MMA and cryptocurrency worlds. Ariel Helwani, the veteran MMA journalist, described the situation perfectly as a classic McGregor-Khabib flare-up, while also noting the crucial fact that no actual victims have come forward publicly to claim they were defrauded. He pointed out that this appears to be much more about their deep-seated personal animosity than any legitimate financial scandal that would warrant serious legal intervention. The sheer complexity of the situation became even more apparent when the panel acknowledged that, in a strange way, both parties could simultaneously be correct in their assessment of the situation.
I am from very poor life. I'm from very poor life. I remember 23 years ago how my father sell his house, and he bring me all my brothers. We moved to capital city because in village is not too much opportunity.
And here is perhaps the most important question that nobody seems to be asking amidst all of the noise and the controversy. Can anybody find a single person who actually bought the Khabib NFT who is now claiming that they have been scammed? Can anyone show a single shred of credible evidence that Khabib actively misrepresented what he was selling to his loyal fan base? One commentator posed this exact challenge directly to the critics.
And I'm very happy, and now I realize how his vision was very far, because he invests people, he invests us, he invests me, my brothers, my close people, he invests like thousands and thousands of kids in Dagestan, and I'm very happy to be here.
The answer, as of this moment, appears to be a resounding no. No legal actions have been filed, and no mass refunds have been issued, suggesting that while the project may be controversial and, in some eyes, ethically questionable, it simply doesn't meet the high legal threshold for fraud that we've seen in other high-profile cases involving celebrities in the cryptocurrency space. But here's where we need to have a much deeper and more meaningful conversation about what all of this really means for Khabib's legacy, because regardless of the legal technicalities and the blockchain verifications, there is absolutely no denying that this situation has tarnished, at least in some people's eyes, the pristine image that Khabib has so carefully and deliberately cultivated throughout his remarkable career. The perception of Khabib as someone who is above the typical athlete endorsement game has been fundamentally challenged. The MMA Hour panel discussed how fans have, for years, placed him on a unique and almost untouchable pedestal.
It doesn't jive with it. And then when you actually take a look at the social media feed, it's just a lot of it. It's a lot. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Now, of course, being controversial isn't better, but I'm just saying, for this guy, I never thought that you would look at his feed and it would just be like real estate, AI, NFTs, all these things that are, Bitcoin, all these things that are like a little bit polarizing right now or controversial, whatever you want to say.
Pure. You see, Khabib Nurmagomedov has always positioned himself as something fundamentally different from the typical fighter who is just seeking fame and fortune. He is the humble warrior, the devout Muslim, the dedicated family man who retired undefeated to honor his mother's wishes after his father's tragic passing from COVID-19 complications. He's the fighter with that perfect 29-0 record, the UFC Hall of Fame inductee, the man who Fight Matrix ranks as the all-time #1 lightweight in MMA history. And his story of rising from poverty in Dagestan to becoming a true global icon is genuinely inspiring and absolutely worth remembering. Khabib himself has spoken about those humble beginnings with remarkable candor.
Because when I was on the way to become champion, when I was on the way to defend my titles, like they was with me, you know, Omar, Islam, Tagir, like all these brothers, like Usman, Gaji, like so many brothers, like they was with me, they was helping me, they was my sparring partners, they was my friends.
But his father, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, wasn't just a coach who taught his son how to fight. He was so much more than that. He was a master of sports in freestyle wrestling, an honored coach of Russia who famously converted their family home's ground floor into a gym. He trained not just Khabib, but an entire generation of fighters, using the discipline of martial arts to combat the spread of extremism and digestion. Khabib has always been quick, and rightfully so, to credit his father's vision and immense sacrifice for everything that he has ever achieved in his life.
The only thing I will say to that is we have assigned that value, right? We collectively have said, Khabib is pure. Khabib is about this. He's ethical. He believes in this, yada, yada, yada. Ultimately, it's for him to then either live up to that, not live up to that.
But when you take a look at Khabib's social media presence today, the contrast is truly jarring and frankly impossible to ignore. His feed is absolutely dominated by promotions for cryptocurrency, for sprawling real estate ventures, for various AI services, and a whole host of different business partnerships. And for the many fans who admired his apparent simplicity and his unwavering focus on legacy over money, this feels like a profound betrayal of the very persona they had come to admire so deeply. The MMA Hour panel captured this sentiment absolutely perfectly. Now, to be completely fair to Khabib, he has absolutely continued his philanthropic work in very meaningful ways. Those 56 former drug addicts that he mentioned in his sharp response to McGregor, those rehabilitation centers in Dagestan are absolutely real, and they continue to help people every single day to rebuild their lives from the ground up. His continued work as a coach, training elite fighters like the current champion Islam Makhachev, Bilal Muhammad, and his cousins Omar and Usman Nurmagomedov, represents a genuine continuation of his father's incredible legacy of developing world champions. The powerful bonds he formed through years and years of grueling training remain absolutely central to who he is as a person. It's the uncomfortable reality that we all really need to confront honestly. Athletes are human beings, and human beings are incredibly complicated, multifaceted creatures capable of both immense nobility and some very questionable decisions. The image that we often construct of our heroes is, more often than not, an idealized version that simply doesn't account for the full complexity of who they actually are as people. The panel made this crucial observation when discussing the massive gap between public expectations and the reality of a person's life. But do whatever he wants. So what's the final verdict in all of this? Is Khabib a fraud who robbed his fans with his NFT project? Or is he simply a savvy businessman, navigating the complex and often treacherous waters of the cryptocurrency market, just like so many other celebrities have done before him? The truth, as it so often does, likely lies somewhere in the murky middle ground between these two extremes. No concrete evidence exists of outright fraud. The digital products were delivered exactly as promised to everyone who purchased them. But serious questions do remain about the ethics of using powerful cultural and familial imagery to market highly volatile digital assets, particularly to fans who may not fully understand the substantial risks involved in these kinds of investments. And as for Dana White, despite what the title of this video might suggest, the UFC president has actually steered completely clear of the NFT specifics in this particular controversy. His comments have been limited to broader observations about how massive paydays can affect fighter motivation and their career trajectories, rather than directly calling Khabib a fraud or weighing in on the legitimacy of his digital venture. This controversy ultimately serves as a powerful cautionary tale about the complex intersection of celebrity, culture, and cryptocurrency in our modern age. It reminds us that even our most admired athletes are capable of disappointing us, and that the new digital economy presents incredible opportunities for both innovation and, unfortunately, for exploitation that simply didn't exist a generation ago. As the dust finally settles on this latest chapter of the McGregor-Khabib rivalry, one thing is absolutely certain: this will not be the last time these two warriors clash, even if they never step inside the octagon together again. Because some rivalries, you see, don't end with a final bell. They simply evolve, finding new battlegrounds and new weapons with which to continue the fight. And that, my friends, is the incredible story of how a traditional Dagestani hat became the center of one of the biggest controversies in MMA history. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, go ahead and click on one of the boxes playing on your screen right now to watch more similar content.